Hello everyone and welcome back to the course. In this video we're going to be talking about central banks. So central banks are the large global banks, that control and manage the money supply and economy of each individual country. So the major central banks are as follows. We have the Bank of England, responsible for the money supply and economy of England, the Bank of Canada, the Federal Reserve, which is arguably the biggest and most important central bank, and that is the US central bank. The Federal Reserve, with the US dollar being a safe haven currency, does actually lead and does have a major effect on pretty much all of the other currencies, all of the other currencies and commodities as well, like gold. So the Federal Reserve is probably the most important central bank there is, and this is the one we want to watch the most. We also have the Reserve Bank of Australia, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, the European Central Bank, and the Swiss National Bank as well. So these are the 7 central banks that we are going to be following inside of our trading, or at least the 7, that you're going to pick from to then follow in your refined strategy. So there are 2 things that we need to primarily follow from central banks. They will release economic data, which we're going to speak about in video number 3. But for now, we're focusing on the high importance data that we get from central banks, and that is interest rate decisions and monetary policy. Interest rates are decided monthly by each central bank. They reflect economic performance, and they help to determine the market sentiment for the coming few weeks. And sentiment, what I mean by this is the market direction, and whether we are bullish or whether we are bearish on a specific currency, whether the bank and the economy believes things are looking good and things are going to be on the up, or on the contrary, if things are looking bad and are going to be on the down, on the decline. So we're going to watch interest rate decisions every single month. And what we can do by doing this is just track the overall performance of an economy given to you from the actual central bank themselves. So essentially, this is how it works. A rate hike, which is where interest rates are increased, is generally hawkish, and that is another statement for bullish or positive. So if we see an increase in interest rates, chances are the economy is on the up and we are going to see improvements in that currency value over the coming month. If we have no change in the interest rates, currency values are probably going to remain quite neutral. This means that nothing is being changed. Everything is either running smooth as it is, or the central bank is just not in a position to change rates. So things will usually react quite neutral then. If rates are cut, this is dovish, which is the opposite to hawkish. It means the economy is bearish, and chances are the currency values are going to fall, and we're going to see a decline over the coming weeks. So that is how we react to interest rates. And that is something we're going to follow every single month, as mentioned. The interest rate decisions are made every 4 weeks by each of the individual central banks around the world. Interest rate statements are met with monetary policy statements as well, And monetary policy statements are released with every rate decision, and they reveal the why, they reveal the reasoning behind the rate decision. So if rates have been increased, or rates have been decreased, or rates have been kept flat, this is reflected, the reasoning why is reflected inside the monetary policy statement. So we will follow the monetary policy statement every month to find the reasoning and the why behind the interest rate decisions. Monetary policy statements can be used to help us determine currency direction, very much in the same way that the interest rate decisions can, but they do work hand in hand. The monetary policy statement is going to provide more clarity over a simple interest rate change. How? Because statements talk about the current economic stance. They consider all things, and this includes real world events. Anything going on, like for example Brexit for the UK, coronavirus as well, affecting all global economies. Inflation and deflation, if a country is on top of their inflation and deflation, or if they have overinflation or underinflation happening, this is also going to be reflected and spoken about in the monetary policy statement. Consumer spending is another thing we're going to talk about. Labor markets, so unemployment and employment. Gross domestic product, so how much money a country is generating, and the cost of living for individuals. Okay, all these things are going to be considered inside of monetary policy statements, and all of these things can help us to gauge currency direction and gauge how an economy is performing to see where the currency is going to move in the future. So essentially, an important economic overview is pulled together in one place in this monetary policy statement, okay, and this pairs with the interest rate. We can analyze what we've read inside this monetary policy statement alongside the interest rate decision to determine where a currency is which direction a currency is likely to trend in. So I say they work hand in hand, and what I mean is if we have a positive interest rate decision, okay, interest rates are raised, we need to then check the monetary policy statement as well to see the reasons why, because sometimes we can get rate cuts which can be bullish, can be positive, can be hawkish for a currency. And while we've spoken about on a whole, generally, a rate cut is not going to be positive for the economy, the monetary policy can include the reasons why. And they can also include a positive booster. Okay, and what this can do is actually give a logical and positive reason why rates have been cut. And when this happens, interest rates will increase. Okay, interest rates will increase. Prices, currency valuations will increase. We will see spikes in the market. So it's important to analyze both together. We don't want to just go on the interest rate decisions, and we don't want to just go on the monetary policy statement. We want to look at both hand in hand to see what they are providing in terms of direction and in terms of knowledge for understanding future currency movements. So to conclude, central banks, we have our interest rate decisions, we have our monetary policy statements. Both of these things combined provide a layer of clarity and confidence to our trading. Interest rates and monetary policy should be taken hand in hand. Review the interest rate decision and monetary policy every month, and then use the central bank sentiment to guide your trades for the coming few weeks and the coming month. Now, tracking all of the monetary policy statements and tracking all of the interest rate decisions can be quite a hefty task and honestly is unneeded. Later in the course, we are going to talk about refining and choosing a select amount of currency pairs and a select amount of currencies to trade. Doing this allows you to cut out a lot of the noise and instead only focus your sights on a few of the central banks, a few of the interest rate decisions, and a few of the monetary policy statements. For example, myself in my own trading, I only focus on the Great British Pound, the Bank of England, the Federal Reserve and the US dollar, and then I also focus on gold as well, okay? And we do have then other cross currencies, including the Australian dollar and the Japanese yen. But these things I will monitor when needed, okay? Overall, we just need to focus on the Federal Reserve and then the central banks closely related to the currencies that we're personally going to be trading. Cool. So that is all for that video, the central banks video. In the next video, we're going to talk about geopoliticals. So central banks, to finalize, are the most important economic factor to consider. Okay, we need to monitor that interest rate decision, and we need to monitor monetary policy. That is going to provide the basis of trend direction to then go onto the charts and trade the markets in line with the economics and the fundamental overview. The next video, geopoliticals, we're going to be talking about real world events that affect the markets and affect currency valuations. Geopoliticals can also provide quite a big part, so it's important to understand how they affect the markets, and it's important to stay up to date with the actual geopoliticals that are playing their part right now. I'll see you in the next video when we dive right into geopoliticals and build our knowledge further on the fundamental analysis and tracking the economics of the real world forex market.